Let's be honest, everyone, Venom isn't that great of a movie. It may not even be a good movie, but the main thing that everyone can relate towards it who is a fan of the character is that they had one heck of a fun time when they were watching it themselves. And after seeing it twice in theaters now, even though Venom didn't necessarily meet my expectations as to what I was wanting this film to be, I can say this is a huge refreshing take on the superhero film genre. And the reason why that is primarily relates to how much of a different take on a superhero movie this is compared to the other ones that we have received in the past. And yes, I'm talking about both and after the effect of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's first installment of Iron Man all the way back in 2008. Now don't get me wrong, Venom is tonally and narratively a jumbled mess of ideas coming from both the producers and the screenwriters conflicting with one another, but I still think that they managed to get the job done with the restrictions that they were given. This is obviously Sony trying to build off of the success that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has managed to achieve, led by great minds like Kevin Feige, but seeing how they are starting off with a character like Venom may not be a bad idea for them if they are indeed going to pull it off. Now don't misunderstand, I do love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but lately I haven't been feeling the excitement that all the other people have been feeling relating to their movies. And this isn't just mainly relating to the Marvel Cinematic Universe either, this also relates to the superhero film genre in general. Out of all the other summer blockbuster superhero movies that have released this year, I still haven't managed to see Ant-Man the Wasp, Deadpool 2, or even The Incredibles 2. And even though one of the main reasons as to why that is mainly relates to how busy I've become as a person in general, but it's also relating to the fact that I've never really felt the urge to go and see it in theaters the first day of their releases. However, this is totally the opposite effect of how I felt regarding Venom. From the moment this movie was announced with having a solo Venom movie without having the implementation of our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, it was already set to be a massive failure. And when Sony started to announce that they were going to continue creating movies featuring Spider-Man related villains without even having Spider-Man in them at all, that only added fuel to their fire. However, with the film being out for over 2 weeks now, it actually managed to prove almost everyone wrong. Even though the critics managed to tear this film a new one, it still managed to come out on top extremely high within the box office, earning huge amounts of revenue as well as having the fans actually enjoy what the movie was. Now, of course, it wasn't the most perfect movie ever made, but it still managed to actually gain in a lot of audience goers wanting to see Venom be portrayed in the best way possible. Now, even though the name of Venom alone, along with the Marvel brand being attached to this character, was bound to get audience members to go and see this movie, there was one other factor as to why so many people flocked to theaters opening night to go and watch this for themselves. And that factor is, of course, Tom Hardy himself. While the financial escapades of Sony and Marvel are still being hashed out, as well as deciding which characters they can and can't use within their own respective universes, the one factor that has played the biggest part about this movie is Tom Hardy. Tom's passion for Venom alone is beyond compare, and the fact that he was willing to go all out for this role just to give the fans the Venom that they truly wanted to see is something truly extraordinary. Tom himself is a huge fan of the Venom character altogether, and seeing how one of the other reasons as to why he wanted to pursue this role is because of his son just shows how much passion he has for this movie. And I gotta be honest, if it wasn't Tom Hardy portraying Eddie Brock in this film, I don't think I would have gone and seen this movie in theaters the first day of its release, which I do think was Sony's goal in the first place. Casting as someone as visceral as Tom Hardy to fill this role of Eddie Brock was just what Sony needed in order to make this movie truly unique. Not once was I ever bored during this movie, and that's all thanks to Tom Hardy's prowess as an actor and as trying to portray the Eddie Brock and Venom that fans truly love from the comics in a very great and also new way. Tom's performance is obviously miles better than Topher Grace's from Spider-Man 3, but that's not necessarily his fault because that is also once again an issue relating to the producers getting in the way of the film director's creation. And even though Sony didn't interfere too much this time around, you can still tell that there was some stuff happening behind the scenes. And even though they'll pretty much be making the fans pay for the movie twice once the DVD releases with more extended footage of the film, I can't help myself because of how much I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Plus, some of the extended footage might take care of some of the issues that I have with this film. Like I said earlier, Venom is tonally all over the place, which is one of the main gripes that I had from the get-go. All of the trailers that Venom had made it seem to be this really dark and serious tonal movie that made Eddie Brock feel like a very serious character, along with having some very dark scenes with Venom being implemented within the story. And given what the director Ruben Fleischer and one of the producers Matt Tolmach were saying about the film before it was released, were making it seem like it was going to be a very dark and serious tonal movie all around. Not only was I excited for this as a Venom fan, but I was also really curious to see how this was going to possibly affect the superhero film genre in general. Seeing that inner conflict between the symbiote and Eddie Brock interacting with with one another was really going to highlight the movie for me if they did it in a very dark and serious way. But since Sony wanted to make the movie PG-13 to have it be more available for other audience members and possibly have it intertwined at some point with the MCU, we didn't end up getting the main Venom movie that I was hoping for. So instead of getting a Venom like this,
you dare to take the other from me, I will take the girl from you.
We actually ended up getting something like this.
It's showtime, freaks. Ooh, I smell bad symbiote, and it ain't me.
Bring it on, Grandpa!
And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, and I did personally laugh a lot during some of the movie's jokes, it wasn't what I was hoping it would turn out to be. However, the main reason why this movie is so refreshing to see as a superhero film is mainly because Sony took risks. There was a huge chance that this film was going to flop, not only in the main regard of how fans would possibly not see it as much, but also due to the financial aspect of the film in general. But even so, Sony decided to hold their ground with this Venom movie, and actually it paid off really well in the long run. The fact that Sony decided to make a movie dedicated to one of my personal favorite villains of all of comic book history, as well as my personal favorite Spider-Man villain of all time, just shows how much they really do want this character to succeed. And sure, even though this movie may seem like a cash grab from Sony, but the fact that they were able to go on ahead and make this film regardless, featuring Tom Hardy as the main role, who genuinely loves this character, is the reason why I love this movie so much. The main gripe I have with the MCU is that even though they are all well portrayed in terms of acting quality, visual effects, and more, it starts to get a bit stale after a while after seeing the same type of movie over and over again. But the thing with Venom is that it was a totally blank slate and something completely new within the world of superhero movies. I didn't know what to expect when it came to the acting, the visual effects, or even the main story in general, and to me, I do think that was part of the appeal of it. And even though this wasn't the Venom movie that I wanted, this was the Venom movie that I needed. Something that respected the foundations of this character, along with showing him off in a new way that I haven't seen before. And sure, even though I don't like some of the aspects that the movie featured, I do appreciate it for what it was. It was a bold move for Sony to do what they did when making this movie, and if we are most likely going to get a sequel featuring Carnage as the main villain, I do think that it has to go in a more darker route, along with showcasing Venom in a more brutal way. And if Sony is really serious about creating their own unique universe of Marvel characters to turn into movies like Kraven the Hunter, Morbius the Living Vampire, and more, I just hope that they don't make it into a massive flop. In the end, Venom wasn't at all what I was expecting it to be, but honestly, I do think that's what makes it half the fun, to just go on this fun thrill ride with this character that we all love. Because overall, Venom was one hell of a fun ride and definitely reinvigorated my interest within the world of the superhero movie genre. And if this is where we're heading in terms of superhero movies nowadays, I just can't wait to see what else is in store. And seeing how successful superhero movies are nowadays, people are always looking for something to reinvest themselves within the world of that genre. These movies mean a bunch to a lot of different people, and seeing how we're only going to get more and more of them as the years come by, it's inevitable that we're going to get something new within that genre. And seeing this new direction in which superhero movies are being taken, you can tell that it's all mainly in thanks to Venom.
We all have our own problems, our own issues.